Saddle up your horses.
Pitter patter, let's get at her. It is another episode of the Manely Broncos Podcast, and if you are going to end up being like Brandon and myself here tonight for this episode, where it is just going to be one big vent session after another, you have really entered the right place. We are going to basically be doing a huge vent session here tonight. So again, thank you so much for hopping in with us. I'm Cameron over on the left-hand side, and obviously Brandon is over there on the right. Brandon, you doing all right there?
No, I'm not. No.
You drowning in tears like I am?
No, I'm just done. Like, when are the Nuggets back? I just want to watch the Nuggets. But no, I'm not surprised. Let's just go with that. I'm in pain, and I'm not surprised that I'm in pain because I knew I was going to be in pain.
When you encounter pain over and over again in terms of the Denver Broncos and their over the course of what's happened, you're numb to it. You know, you really are numb to it. You want to be able to see the light out of the at the end of the tunnel, you know, and you just don't know if you're going to get to that point. It seems like, and we'll talk about it, but it seems like maybe the Broncos are under Sean Payton and this new ownership, maybe possibly seeing a light at the end of the tunnel, which is a possible rebuild, right? And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, it's just it's hard. You're numb to it, man. And so yeah, it sucks. But we want to say thank you to obviously the people that comment on this chat. Again, this is going to be a event session as much as it is for us, as it of course will be for you. So if you guys have any big comments or comments that maybe that you guys would that you guys have for us, like questions or so on and so forth, jump into the chat. And if you guys are watching on Twitter, first things first, thank you guys first and foremost. But sadly, if you guys are commenting, down there on Twitter, gone are the days of Periscope. And sadly, those comments that you do see on those Periscope channels, they don't air, unfortunately. And so we unfortunately cannot see them. But if you guys hop over to the MHRT Network on YouTube, click that subscribe button. We are just getting, I was going to say we are just getting close to, I want to say it is 1.2 in terms of 1,000 subscribers. We're getting rather close to that. So we want to say thank you to each and every one of you that is subscribed to the MHRT Network. So it's going to be a fun night, though. Anytime we have the chance to, talk about the Broncos and obviously interact with you guys, the listeners, it's going to be a fun time. So yes, Broncos country, let's lift, right? Because I feel like that's like one of the things. I feel like that's like one of the things myself that I've been like training myself for, like not just in the sense of like, just of course with the whole Broncos season, but like when you have the opportunity to like, I don't know, like ease your pain, the best possible way to possibly do that is to go work out. Like, and actually, I kid you not, like when I worked out on Sunday around like 10:40 and came back, and there was games and everything, and then the game got over with against the Jets, and I thought to myself, you know what? I think I'm gonna go work out again. Like I'm gonna just go back to the
again. Was it a two a day?
No, I did want to pull that, but I was just like, I was so tempted though to be like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. I'm gonna go back to the gym and just work 2 times a day.
I'm telling you, the Broncos, they just want me to hit some PRs, man. Lift angry. Be safe. Be safe if you lift angry. Like, don't be stupid. But you lift angry, you're gonna hit some PRs because you get some strength that you didn't know you had, and you're gonna have some results. So you know what? That's the minuscule bright spot of the season. Thank you, Denver, for caring about my health, because you seem to be doing this on purpose for me. So I appreciate it. I hate you for it, but I appreciate it. The only other light at the end of the tunnel would be if we actually do, and like we'll touch on this. This might even be the first thing we touch on in terms of like what's next. If I knew for sure that we were going to do a rebuild, that's the light at the end of the tunnel.
Right.
Just admit it.
Yeah.
Admit it. Do it.
Graham says Broncos by 70. He's obviously kidding.
If we break the curse and somehow win tomorrow, first of all, I think the only way that happens is if Travis Kelce doesn't play, and I don't know if he plays or not. I have no idea. Probably does, but I will have no idea how to feel. I will still be like, I will lose my mind. Like I don't care if I do care if we lose draft picks because of it, but I'm so sick of the Chiefs. We'll get it.
I was gonna say, just say it.
I'm sick of the bullshit, man. I'm sick of the whole like, oh, well, we haven't lost to the Broncos since. There was like a whole list. This actually blows my mind. I don't know if I can go back and find it. There was a list of some Chiefs fan account, whatever, put out this list of things that didn't exist the last time that we beat the Chiefs, and it is.
Or things that were existing at the point in time when we last.
No, like they literally did not exist the last time we beat them. One of them was TikTok. One of them was Fortnite. Like literally the last time we won, they did not. What TikTok wasn't a thing. That didn't exist. That's just sad. But whatever.
Yeah, I will say, well, like I said, we'll talk about it. But if I said on the 5280 podcast yesterday, but if it just so happens that that the Broncos do end up beating the Chiefs, that means that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce have to stay together, and that means that Taylor Swift has to go to the game in Empower Field and obviously make an appearance in Empower Field because she is clearly the jinx for the Chiefs to be losing to the Denver Broncos. So she obviously has to continue dating Travis Kelce, and then they obviously have to get married, and there's no breakup song. So the moment that it actually happens, where the Broncos do break that streak, and if it involves Taylor Swift, they got to stay together. I'm sorry, like I don't make the rules. Like that's exactly what's going to end up having to happen.
I don't know if I followed that. If we win, that they have to break up.
No. If they win, they have to stay together.
If the Chiefs win.
No, if the Broncos win.
Oh, then I want us to lose. That's a double. That's a double victory. Higher draft pick, and I'm no more of that bullshit. I'm not looking forward to that tomorrow. Like tomorrow is gonna. I'm gonna be on a mood tomorrow. Tomorrow's gonna be bad.
All right. Let's first talk about obviously the game that happened. For full disclosure sake, let's talk about it. Both things can be true on this, Brandon. Obviously, we talked about it before. Sean Payton never should have made the comments that he made, in the offseason. But by that same token, the game that the Broncos had against the Jets, win or lose, does not change the fact that he was wrong or that he was right by any means. And from our point of view, he was right? And so it does not change anything that he said or anything that changes from that game against the Jets. It doesn't change that. What is frustrating is just the unfortunate backlash that has thus been received after that game, of course, from the Jets, Robert Saleh, and all those comments. But both things can be true, is that like he had to say what he had to say, he felt like, and, as blunt, and maybe he shouldn't have said it. He was right, but also
I still think that whole situation was overblown and they're making too much about it. And the whole, whatever people are saying about, we lost to them. Who cares? Hackett's our offensive coordinator. Who cares? It doesn't mean we lost to Hackett. His offense wasn't good. We gifted them so many points. Like they only scored one offensive touchdown, I think, against us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because, and like against a defense that is by far the worst in the league and going to end up somewhere in the record books as one of the worst defenses in NFL history, your offense can score one offensive touchdown. Like, come on. I'm tired of the whole Sean Payton said this crap about a coach that was bad. He was a bad coach. He's a bad head coach. Maybe he's an okay offensive coordinator. That's okay. I don't know. I don't care. Good for him. He can do whatever he wants. I don't hate the man personally, but as the head coach of the Broncos, when he was here last year, he was incompetent, and not everyone, should be a head coach. And should Payton have made the comments that he made in public? Maybe not in public.
Yeah,
I do understand why he said them. I think he's just trying to motivate the team.
exactly.
Maybe don't put it out there publicly. Like that's where I think the mistake was made. But whatever.
But again, it does not change the fact that obviously Nathaniel Hackett was the worst head coach arguably in NFL history. So the fact that you see a national media overblow this to where he's getting so much hype from the national media, post that game and of course with everything that is, Nathaniel Hackett is just, honestly, it's just stupid. It is just really stupid. But as far as the game itself, it was frustrating. For the first half, it looked like you actually had a competent defense for the most part for the first half. Actually, it was the most competent we had looked for a full half. But then the dam broke. The second half woes continued for the Denver Broncos. And then not only that, but the Broncos go 3 and out, which is obviously on the offense. And they go 3 and out to start the second half. But then they go back to the Jets. DJ Jones comes out of the game due to injury. And at that moment, Breece Hall runs for 72 yards. And that's when the dam broke. I just think that at that moment was when everything just hit the fan. And that was when, the Jets took the lead 15-13, and then the rest was history at that point.
I think we knew that was going to happen. I mean, I talked about this on, I think, all 3 of the podcast episodes I recorded last week. Like, Breece Hall was my biggest concern. He's just such an explosive running back that he's going to get his burst of a carry, like his 70-yard run. That's just going to happen, especially when your defense is this bad. And yeah, the whole DJ Jones injury did not help that. And he's actually out for tomorrow, which Isaiah Pacheco, who runs have you ever seen anyone run like Isaiah Pacheco? Like, nothing against Isaiah Pacheco. I'm not saying it's bad, or I'm not trying to embarrass him, but just his running style is so unique. Like, he looks like he is trying to push his legs through the center of the earth. We'll talk about it, but he's going to have a good day tomorrow.
Isaiah
Breece Hall, we knew it was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen.
Isaiah Pacheco runs like if you were to give your child at night cotton candy at 8:30 at night, and he has a sugar high. That's exactly the way that Isaiah Pacheco runs the football.
Yeah, it's wild.
And by the way, I definitely respect, you guys, sports nonsense, the whiskey, but when you mentioned about, that the time has passed him by a little bit for Peyton, it's a little too soon to make that sort of. Well, it's too soon to make that sort of assumption. It's possible that it's true. But I think for the Broncos' sake, and only being through 5 or 6 games, it's a little too soon to make that kind of assumption. Obviously he has a full career of that, but he would have to be with the Broncos for 2 to 3 years. And of course, with this rebuild, for us to actually make the true determining factor on that.
I mean, he was retired last year. He's coming back into it. We saw Russ last year with the new team. It was a bit difficult. Coaches with the new team. I mean, I know it's a little bit different in terms of what they're doing, and John Payton is he's obviously a veteran. He's been around. He's not a new guy, but he's coming off of a year off, and he's coming into a new team with a new situation. And honestly, also, and this kind of goes into, I think, answering your question, Josh. I just don't think this roster is good enough. This roster is not talented enough on any side of the ball, really. It could also be competitive effort. It could be that the losing has just caught up with the players and they're just sick of it. We heard what Garrett Bowles said. But it's just been such a constant that I don't know if it's, I'm not saying that they're professional football players, they want to win. I'm not saying they aren't playing to win. I just think that it drives you down a little bit. Play calling, I don't know. The offense didn't necessarily look awful for some of the game.
Except for the red zone.
Except for, in the red zone. It wasn't good. It definitely wasn't a good offensive production game or just in general, but it wasn't terrible. I haven't had a chance to go back and watch the full view. But there were so many plays of Russell Wilson, like just standing back there and holding the. Russell Wilson looked a little bit like Russ from last year, a bit. And what I mean by that is like he's holding the ball too long. And I don't know if it's that no one was getting open, or there was a confusion about the play call, or he just wasn't seeing the right read and he wasn't seeing the guy that was open and wasn't able to make the pass. I don't know what it was. The interesting statistic I've read today is like Russ has had the most time to throw in the league. And like, yes, the offensive line still hasn't been fantastic. I still think Mike McGlinchey was a massive mistake. He was just getting like absolutely destroyed by, I think it was Jermaine Johnson.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much all game. He was just eating his lunch, but I don't know. It was weird because like the offense wasn't great, especially compared to like what we've seen from them so far this season where they've been better, but it also wasn't like a dumpster fire.
Yeah.
When we got later into the game, like this has been an issue is you get into the second half and it kind of just falls apart a little bit. Like it was a bad game.
I think
but it wasn't like it didn't look incompetent like we did last year.
I think the reason why it looked so bad or possibly looked like trash was because the times when we were in the red zone, that's when it did look like trash. And the moment when you
was really bad.
And when you actually want to be putting up points, why are we doing something that is conservative or doing bubble screens or
there were so many screens. There were a lot of screens in this game.
Or taking, shots in the end, not taking as many shots in the end zone, right? Like it was hardly any shots to the end zone. And so it's just really frustrating. And frankly, I understand the logic for so many screens in terms of the defensive line of the Jets. I understand it from that standpoint. But when you're in the red zone, it's bully ball. It's time for bully ball. Like it's time to play physical and, get, put in some AJP, Ryan, become that physical run offense that you need to be, right? And that's exactly what the Broncos needed to do. Like they needed to basically out physical the Jets and when they were in the red zone, and they really didn't do that. And also I think the other thing too is like we talked about it with Scott, right? Like we talked about it with Scott that this was going to be an opportunity where you thought you were going to see maybe Russ use his legs a little bit more. You saw that in the first half, but even then, like where the heck did that go in the second half? Like it was, did the pass rush get to Russ, in that second half and he was a little, cautious in terms of running as much as he was, or was it that he just, to what you were saying, was he maybe not seeing things down the field? Or, I think, when I was watching some of the stuff with Tim Jenkins, it did seem like there were some play calling issues. And, especially like if you're in the red zone, those are things you need to have corrected. Right. And so going forward, this is going to end up being something where, they have to be able to be on the same page. And, for what it was like at the beginning part of this season, like, I don't know what happened like after the second week, but the scramble drill that we had been seeing from wide receivers is actually piss poor right now. Like it is actually really, really bad. I mean, we'll talk about him and we'll lump him in terms of maybe one of the more logical players that may be on the move. But Courtland Sutton is a massive disappointment, even more so than Jaron Judy. Like, saying, I just think that like with Courtland, like there was the one play, the really famous play that people have been latching onto, and as they should. It was the 3rd and 14. He ran a comeback route, and it looked like he was dogging it. You hate to use that phrase, but like it looked like he was dogging it, so much so that you saw Sauce Gardner jump in front of him and darn near pick off that pass. And I don't know what I would have hated more, the fact that Sauce would have picked that ball off, or the fact that you saw Courtland Sutton do exactly what he was doing, And so it's really, I just can't believe that we were seeing something that is truly on the effort side of things, on not just the defensive side of the ball, but on the offensive side of the ball at times too.
Yeah, Cortland Sutton had an absolutely just atrocious game. I honestly think it's time for a new scenery for him. Like he needs a fresh start. The team needs a bit of a fresh start, I think, away from him. I think part of the big issue that specifically this game kind of happened was like Marvin Mims. I talked about before where like Marvin Mims needs more snaps and more targets and more everything. He needs the ball more. He needs to be more in this offense. But I think like specifically his first fumble on the return, I just killed his confidence. Like,
yeah.
He's still a rookie. He's still in his 6th game. Like, I still love Marvin Mims. I think he's a great player, but
as a young player, yeah,
like you can't have that momentum killing, confidence killing mistake that then you go into the rest of the game. Like, I'm not surprised we didn't try to feed the ball to him more. And then there was that weird like trick play handoff. I don't know exactly. Like, I think I had seen someone, I don't know if it was like a Sean Payton interview, but like someone had said that it was a mistake by Samaje Perine. But if you go back and look at it, it looks like when he's trying to hand the ball to Perine, he like throws it. He almost throws it over his head. Like he is way too high. He can't bring it down. He can't like, he's already like moving. He's trying to build up that head of steam and he can't get the ball because he's throwing it over his head. Like, that was obviously very bad, but it started from the fumble on the punt return and it just spiraled downhill from there. I mean, you can't have, for a rookie who, again, I think he'll work past this, but you can't have that kind of mentally destroying mistake that early in the game and then come back and try to work through it. I mean, like, obviously I'm not saying he wasn't trying to, but I feel like it definitely dragged on him as the game went on. And I don't blame him. Like, I get it. He's a rookie, but that's where you need that veteran presence. You need that guy who has the short-term memory is like, okay, well, yep, that's on me. It sucks, but like, come at me again. Like, I'm ready to go. I'm going to get open, throw the ball to me. Like, I think that's where we're going to miss Tim Patrick a lot. Like Tim Patrick, if we had Tim Patrick in this game, I think the offense would have been significantly better. Jerry Jeudy, I don't really know what to think of him. Like, he's been like weird where he's not been bad, but he's also not been good, especially this year. I don't think he has a single touchdown yet. And like Cortland, he has several, but again, they were all kind of like that, rolling out of the pocket drills. It's just time to build a new roster. This roster has to just be rebuilt at this point. Like, it's been years in the making that we should have been doing this. Like, I know do you want to just get into it now? You want to get into like where do we go from here? Because this game was like already it's an eye-opening. It's a signal. It's like we have to do something. We can't just like expect this to be worked out. There's too many foundational problems on this team that you can't resolve by trading for a Hall of Fame coach or trading for a quarterback. Like, what do you think?
I think it's really important to preface this. And as devastating and as frustrating as it is, and again, this is a vent session for not just us, but also you guys in the chat and anybody that's actually watching this. First off, if you guys are a Broncos fan and you guys are commenting and you're watching this, please, thank you guys so much. We feel your pain. But I think from the vantage point, we need to resurface what we talked about when the Broncos hired when the Broncos hired Sean Payton. What was one of the things we said about Sean is that I think that Sean Payton was the best thing for this team during the Russell Wilson era and the post-Russell Wilson era, right? And we need to re-bring that back. And I think that, like, it's really important. What did we expect what we were going to be seeing this year? No. But still, like, he was the coach that is going to be during this point in time, and then obviously during the rebuild, and then possibly out of that rebuild as well. So I think that in terms of this season, and I brought it up with the Miami with the Miami game, but like when you have devastating
the game that shall not be named.
the game that should not be named, it really is getting to the point where you're very easily going to see the players that are pretenders and contenders of people that you want to roll with the rest of the way, right? And I think that the thing that makes you skeptical is like there's parts of it where he's not a bust per se. Like he's absolutely not a bust. Like, you know, there's plays where you actually see him light it up. Like his rookie year was fantastic. The half of last year to what you saw from the tail end of the end of last year he was your best offensive player. And maybe what it is, and again, I'm not fully much into tape, but like maybe he's fulfilling the Tim Patrick role in the sense of like he's sort of like a decoy right now, and Russ is, you know, finding guys like Cortland Sutton and, you know, Brandon Johnson, you know, and some of those other players, like, you know, but like,
go ahead.
But I just think that like the other thing to preface this too is like when you move on from guys like Randy Gregory, and then we didn't necessarily have the chance to talk fully on the Randy Gregory move, but when you move on from a guy like Randy Gregory, who was a big, massive contract that they signed last year, it does signal to you that they are going to be going for a rather small or a rather big rebuild.
Well,
yeah. But I was
go ahead.
I was just going to finish this. But I think that like going forward with this team, it's with the release of little Jordan Humphrey. This is where it gets interesting now, because I think people and Bronco fans need to understand that the rebuild and shipping off all these pieces is not something that you're going to see this like in this regular season right now. Like, you know,
well, you might see some trades.
By
the deadline,
right? But I'm not suggesting that the Broncos are going to be shipping off like 6-7 players.
Oh no, but I feel like,
you know,
I think some of them will be.
I think the ones
I think
the ones that you're going to be seeing, like, you know, is going to end up being Cortland. It's probably going to end up being Frank Clark. Frank Clark is actually
Judy.
I actually think it's Cortland right now, but Judy is something I think maybe you deal with at the end of the offseason, and then at that point,
I don't know about that.
Okay, so
let me explain. So the reason I say that, one, I think the thing that just has been to me strange about Jerry Jeudy is it hasn't felt like he's been the guy that we tried to feature in this offense as like the clear number one. Which is weird. Like it looked like we're kind of like trying to push that a bit more on Cortland. Which I don't know if that's the right call either. But like Cortland's kind of he's been okay, I guess. Other than like, again, against the Jets, he was pretty bad. I actually kind of want to look up the target share of each of them because I'm curious to know this, but it just hasn't felt like Jerry Jeudy has been like, again, that guy that going into the offseason or the season, he's like the clear cut number one. He's going to be the feature. And I just hasn't felt like that. I think and the reason I say I think we might see Jerry Jeudy traded is, again, not only has he not really been in the offense much, but he also seems to be like I can't see him being happy in this situation. I feel like part of the issue with, especially going into that game with like the morale and effort being pretty low. I think the players know that big changes are coming and a fire sale is going to happen and the teardown is happening. I can't remember what reporter reported this, but someone was asked basically like what the vibe of the locker room is with the players, and basically it was reported of like the sense is that a rebuild is coming, like a teardown is coming, and if you know a teardown is coming, like it's weird because to me, I can look at it as, okay, well, I know they're going to tear down. I'm going to, go out there and put the best tape on that I can so I can get, traded and potentially have a future team with this new team and maybe get a new contract. But I don't know. Like, I just feel like it kind of drags you down a little bit if that's been the vibe, especially with the Randy Gregory trade that it ended up being. Like, you look at that move specifically, and it just kind of like felt like going into the game. The players already sort of knew that, and you're already 1-3. Now you're 1-4. Let's be honest. We're probably 1-5. I just think the players know what's about to happen, and I can't blame them for not wanting to put a ton of effort in. And I think that Jerry Jeudy wants to go. I think that, like, there was that whole report that he basically unfollowed every Broncos team on, I think it was Instagram, and then he followed basically everyone on the Panthers. We know the Panthers are looking for a wide receiver. I'm not saying he's going to go there, but like, that's why I think you might see something move with him in the season. Is he's still on his rookie deal. He can go somewhere and make an impact this year. And there's people that would be willing to give up something for him during the season. And if you're going to do it, like, I'd rather just, I think would probably be more likely to get at least a slightly higher pick for him if they're getting even half of a season of him still on his rookie deal than you would if you're trading him after the season.
Jerry Jeudy had the most targets in the game. And he caught 6 of those 7 passes for 50 yards.
I meant like the target share for the entire season.
But I think that the problem is you cannot trade Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy in one season.
No, I'm not saying you trade both of them. No, definitely not.
But I'm telling you right now,
trade one of them and cut the other one, though.
But I'm telling you right now, I think the most likely candidate to be traded is Cortland Sutton, because there are far more effort concerns with Cortland Sutton than there are with Jerry Jeudy. I actually am dead serious on that. Like, and that's just something that.
Well, that may be true, but like, it's looked like he's been. Let me find this out. Go ahead and make the rest of your point, and I'll try to find this statistic I'm looking for.
But I mean, like, the point too, though, is like, if you're getting rid of the Randy Gregory deal, and you're offloading that kind of deal with the kind of money that they were paying, basically, that signals to me they're also going to be offloading some rather big contracts for this team. And that's why one of the things that I say is, like, it's possible that you certainly do look at a new wide receiver room going forward. I just don't think it's going to be involving either, it's going to be involving, I don't think it's going to be involving Cortland Sutton and Tim Patrick, to where you actually may see both of them not here anymore. And with the current release of Little Jordan Humphrey, that leaves you with 4 wide receivers. They can obviously call up, Traquan Smith, but that's 5. Then if you decide to trade, like, let's just say they do trade Jerry Jeudy or they trade, Cortland Sutton, you're still back down to some depth concerns at wide receiver. And so I think that, I think if you're looking at some moves that need to be done, I think Garrett Bowles is a fascinating one. I think that the fact that they have Cam Fleming on your roster, they could possibly trade Garrett Bowles, have Cam Fleming start at the tackle spot, and then and possibly even Josie Jewell. Josie Jewell's on an expiring contract. You could trade him. Something we did touch on, of course, with the trade possible or the addition of Drew Sanders, right? Is that, like, who knows, what's going to be of Josie Jewell, like. And so I think that if you are in the mode of playing some younger players, Drew Sanders would most notably fit that bill. But yeah, you can go out and start Cam Fleming. You can trade Garrett Bowles. You can trade Frank Clark. You could trade Cortland Sutton. You're offloading some of these contracts, especially Sutton. So I think that Sutton, in terms of the contract, makes a lot of sense. Justin Simmons, I think, is certainly one. I think even that's a little bit 50-50.
And that hurts, but yeah. I think anyone that's not on a rookie contract is fair game.
Yeah, and that's why I'm just saying like the Jerry Jeudy thing is fascinating. Like that's why I'm saying like I'm not trying to dismiss this idea that like that they can definitely still trade Jerry Jeudy. I just think that when you look at them, when you peel back the curtain of a lot of the players that are going to be on the move, you actually start to look more at some of those players that have been here the longest and not necessarily Jerry Jeudy. The reason why you're trading Jerry Jeudy is you feel like he's a cancer in the locker room. You feel like he's been a distraction off the field. You feel like he's been a distraction and effort concerns, whatever, may be on the field. Like,
Are you saying you believe that? Or are you
No.
just saying that? Okay. Because I was I don't think that's been the case.
Like, but I'm just saying, like,
Yeah.
there's people that possibly could attribute with what he's doing on social media as also being a cancer in the locker room, or so on and so forth. And so I think that when
He
you
also
see,
just might not want to be here. Like, I feel like it'd maybe be reported if he officially requested a trade.
and he has not.
He might still. He never officially said it, but I mean, he could have given them the impression of like, yeah, I don't want to be here.
But anyway, the point though
Anyway.
is that if you peel back all the names and all the players that could easily be dealt, with Jerry Jeudy being on the rookie deal and the fact that the Broncos picked up his 5th-year option this offseason. Now, granted, that changes. That those plans can obviously change during a season, right? That you pick up the 5th-year option before the season, but like those things can easily change too, where you can't like take back their 5th-year option, but like you can at least rethink, I would be, maybe you do move on from him. But again, like you look at players like Justin Simmons, sadly, Cortland Sutton, Frank Clark, Garrett Bowles. I mean, I think that the logical candidates right now, if you're going to be looking at, as I said, would be Frank Clark, Cortland Sutton, maybe Garrett Bowles, and then possibly Justin Simmons. Justin Simmons.
I think Frank Clark is 100% gone.
I feel like Justin Simmons and Garrett Bowles, to a certain extent, like if you trade them, signals a possible tank without actually tanking. You know what I mean? So like,
Well, it signals a teardown. I think Garrett.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one player that's like, this is I'm calling my shot. This is who's going to get traded. I do think it's Garrett Bowles.
Yeah. Alex, no one's not really reporting this. I'm just saying, like, I think people, when they sometimes on, social media, or sometimes maybe what they see as a personality, sometimes they make an assumption, right? And that they just make an assumption that's like, okay, he could possibly be a cancer in the locker room.
Well, I think that the team would know, right? I think you would see that from people that aren't in the know would think that. I get what you're saying now. Alex, like what he was really trying to do is he was just like explaining, like he's basically saying, I wouldn't trade Jerry Jeudy. The only reason I would trade Jerry Jeudy is if I think that he was like causing issues. That's what he was saying. Yeah. I get it. I get it now.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, you could be right. I do think one of the wide receivers probably traded. I think Garrett Bowles is traded. Those are my predictions. Justin Simmons, it would really, really suck, but it makes too much sense, and it also wouldn't surprise me.
I don't know if it makes too much sense, but it's just, I don't know if it makes too much sense because, like, see, the thing is like, again, this is a very biased answer.
You can get something for him.
But this is a biased answer. But like, ideally, I would love to just keep Simmons, keep PS2, and just rebuild everything else. Just rebuild.
Well, I do think. Yeah, I do think PS2 stays. I don't think we're going to trade him. I could be wrong. The only reason I would say that I think it makes sense for Justin Simmons is he's not on his rookie deal anymore, obviously. He's an amazing player, but you're going to be able to get something for him. And he's young enough that you can kind of get some kind of a return, but he's also old enough that it could be like, if this is a 3-year rebuild, I mean, Justin Simmons is going to be 32.
Right. Yeah. I think if you're looking at some suitors and if you're looking at some teams possibly for Justin Simmons, the Philadelphia Eagles would be a team that I would look at. For Justin. And then of course the two Florida teams, trade him back to his hometown, home state of Florida. Go maybe to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and possibly even to the Miami Dolphins. To
There's
play
3 Florida teams.
I know.
The Tampa Bay.
But the Jaguars and in Miami. So Simmons alongside Javon Holland, which would be crazy. But yeah,
that would be wild.
And of course, playing with Fangio again. But I think from everything that I heard is that he actually wasn't the biggest Vic Fangio fan, from what I remember. The good news is I can actually tell you with certainty is that if Justin Simmons is traded, I have it in complete certainty that he's not going to be moving. Like, he's going to be keeping his family and kids here. So they will still, raise their kids and, grow up in Colorado. So I can, at least tell you that, like, with certainty that they will not be moving.
Who's your source? I know who your source is. Yeah, I mean, I think we're going to be sellers. I think if we lose to the Chiefs, which, let's be real, it's basically a foregone conclusion. I don't know why I said bygone conclusion. We're probably going to lose the Chiefs. I think we're going to be sellers. And I think we should be. I think we should have done this so long ago. My question, and this is my question to you and to the chat, is what do you do about Russell Wilson? Because he's not really been the problem. He's also not been the solution, but I don't know if he can be the solution because the roster is just too bad around him. The defense is too atrocious and can't be fixed quick enough. He's not getting any younger. Like, I don't think you can trade him. I don't think anyone will take his contract. But what do you do with Russell Wilson? Because you either cut him after this year, or you're going to have him for at least 1 or 2 more years. Like, what's his contract look like?
A big balloon.
I mean, obviously, well, other than like trash, other than his contract is trash, what does it look like in terms of dead cap? So, after this year, oh my God. Let's see. This year we have a dead cap of 107 million. That is so bad. Next year, the dead cap is 85 million, and then 49 million, 31 million, 12 million, 4 million. So, like, the dead cap goes down every year, but obviously he also gets older every year. I think potential out.
Yeah, it wasn't in 2025.
Potential out is 2026 with a 31 million dead cap.
But I think that
I don't know what the answer is.
So, like, here's the thing, and that's why, not to circle back on a tweet that I posted, I can't remember if it was today or yesterday, but I think the Broncos find themselves in the Alex Smith situation. And to preface this, like, as I did on Twitter, like, I'm not saying that, that the Broncos are like the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Kansas City Chiefs were successful with Alex Smith and, gave the reins to, Pat Mahomes. And again, like, full disclosure, no one thought Pat Mahomes would end up being one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. Right. So I think that, like, and, Josh puts it in the chat, like, once you get to the point, like, with Russ and everything with this quarterback, he will, at that point, will have to realize he's going to have to restructure that contract. And so the reason why I say it is because the way the Broncos are, the way that, the way that, the way the Broncos certainly operate, there's a lot of ways that they can go. There's a lot of ways that the Broncos can certainly go into the draft. I will say I will be very disappointed if the Broncos have a top 5 draft pick, or at least a top 6 draft pick, and they don't take a quarterback. I will actually be pretty pissed off at that, because
if they can take a quarterback, though.
But I'm just saying, like, if they have the propensity to take a guy like a Drake May,
if you could take Drake May, you don't take Drake May,
right? But I'm just saying, like,
you should be fired.
But if they have that opportunity to take a quarterback and not even flinch about it, then they should take it. And then at that point, you do go to Russ. And I actually do think Russ would, be rather open to the idea of restructuring. How much of a restructure would that be? Your guys' guess is as good as mine on that. But I think that the idea of him possibly restructuring and the idea, because I think Russ is smart enough. I know that he wants to play till he's 40, but I think that Russ knows, possibly with everything that he's seen this year and last year, that his future is still very much in doubt. And so I possibly could see him peeling it back a little bit and possibly even being that mentor for a young quarterback, right? But I think the other thing to keep in mind too is, like, you don't have to take a quarterback. And again, it's a sucker punch to the gonads when I say this, but like, because the Broncos would have a top pick, but like, you could take a chance on guys like a JJ McCarthy or even a Cam Ward. Cam Ward's a guy that I think is like a guy that people are sleeping on, but Cam Ward would be a pretty decent quarterback to sit under, Russ. So like at that point, like you could possibly go, not to go PTSD, but like you could go the Drew Lock route, but or even the Peyton Manning with Brock Osweiler route, like where he's here, because the thing is that, and this is the tie bow on the thing, like the thing to tie a bow on all of this is the reason why the Broncos have to go after a quarterback on this in this whole rebuild situation, and in particular the 2024 class, is because you do not want to put yourself into the QB purgatory that you have been in for the last 7 years. So they absolutely have to swing, if they can, on a guy who they think is available. So like if you feel like trading back and taking Michael Penix Jr., right? Riley Leonard is another one, right? I forgot about his name too, but like, I don't think Shedeur Sanders is going to be coming out, but I mean, he's certainly a guy that fits perfectly, would feel, for a Sean Payton type of offense. But like, so you do not want to be in QB purgatory. So keep swinging.
Yeah. I'll follow that up and say, though, if we're in the top 5 and we don't do everything possible to get Drake May, we're not going to. I mean, unless we have number 1, we're not going to get Caleb Williams, and I don't think anyone's going to trade out of that spot. But
not even 2 either, because I'm sure if the Bears have the number 1 overall pick, they also have the number 2 overall pick.
Yeah, so they could. Congratulations on the Caleb Williams, Marvin Harrison Jr. stack. That would be absolutely ridiculous. But if we pick top 5, we don't do everything possible to take Drake May, I'm going to be pissed. Like, I like JJ McCarthy. I think he's a pretty good quarterback. I like Michael Penix Jr. I want to watch him more. But I think just Drake May is in a class of his own above them, and
he's almost
if you have the opportunity to get him, go get him.
He's almost the Justin Herbert. I know he wears 10.
I think that my only issue with, I like your idea of like the Alex Smith situation. My only issue with that is they actually were able to win with Alex Smith. They weren't having to do a rebuild. The rest of their roster was good enough that they could just win with Alex Smith and then put in Pat Mahomes, and the rest is history. The problem with our roster is we literally have to rebuild it from the ground up. Would Russ stick around through a rebuild? Like, if you tell Russ, hey, we're going to draft your replacement, we'll keep paying you this contract if you want to play here. You could be our bridge quarterback while we figure out the rest of the roster, so we don't throw this rookie into the flames with a horrible offensive line and a horrible roster, which again, the offensive line isn't even that bad. Like, I don't think he's going to go for that.
But we don't know.
Maybe
that
I'm wrong.
too.
Maybe I'm wrong. Well, I don't know for sure, but it just doesn't seem like that. It's like he wants to prove that he can win. That's his whole thing. He wants to prove that he can cook. He can be the lead guy, that he's not dependent on the Legion of Boom, or whatever the vibe around him was in Seattle. And like, obviously it's already kind of been played out that, like, you've seen all of the attacks against Russ. It's actually kind of ridiculous. Mm-hmm. I've seen more, and I'm going to get hated on for saying this, and people are going to come out of the woodworks and say I'm stupid or whatever. But it's true. I'm telling you the truth. I personally have seen so many more people hate on the Russell Wilson trade and the Russell Wilson contract than the Deshaun Watson trade and the Deshaun Watson contract. That is way worse. And Deshaun Watson has looked worse than Russell Wilson last year, even. Like last year, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson has looked worse. And Deshaun Watson, like take off the stuff on the field as a off the field as a quarterback, he is probably also washed. Like he's been horrible. And then you like not even to get into the off the field stuff, but the funny thing to me about Deshaun Watson, I think this kind of says everything you need to know about him as a person, at least a competitor, maybe not as a person, as a competitor. I think it was 2 weeks ago, when their tight end, whose name I'm completely forgetting,
David
Njoku had that like freak house accident where he had like massive burns on his face and arms.
He posted a picture today.
It looks so bad. And he literally, I think his exact quote when he was asked about it and if he was going to play is, "The flesh is weak. See you tomorrow." And he played through the birds. And the thing that just makes that even more funny to me is Deshaun Watson that same game was medically cleared to play from his injury. And he decided, nah, I'm not good enough. I can't get out there. He was medically cleared by the team's doctors to be able to play fully. And he's like sat it out. Whereas David Njoku has burns on his body and is out there playing. Like that's bad on Deshaun, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're spot on there. I mean, you know, and I mean, even so much so that, you know, like, again, you don't want to bring too much of the, you know, the off the field stuff, but it's like Russ is actually, and again, even this is getting criticized, but like Russ is actually a decent human being.
He's a good human being. His only thing is he's kind of corny,
which is okay.
And he has a reputation. People think he's fake, which I mean, I guess I kind of get it. I didn't think that's what he's like.
Yeah, but it's just like, you know,
just his personality.
If you feel like he's corny, that's fine, but like he's actually a genuine human being. I talked to one person, you know, and she said that like it's actually who Russ is. Like he's legitimately a genuine human being. Like, you know, so I mean, like it's going to be really interesting to see what the Broncos do, because also the other talking point about this is because the other talking point about this is because Russ is also playing well, and granted, like it's entering a realm that you also could move on. And this is probably the Alex Smith, not the Alex Smith that's in the chat right now, by the way. But, you know, not the Alex Smith, you know, window with the Kansas City Chiefs, but like it could force the Broncos in that window of like, maybe do you go on and you actually move on with Russ, and maybe for the first time you actually build a team that is truly compatible with, you know, Sean Payton and Russell Wilson and everything that they want to do, of a team that they can build, you know, truly, which is still a rebuild, but it's doing a full-on rebuild with Russell Wilson at quarterback. And that's because of simply the contract that they've been gifted. Now, a lot of that's going to end up, you know, on Russell Wilson's shoulders, that he's going to have to continue to play better and, you know, and better, and, you know, getting the teams to the playoffs and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So, but there is obviously that thing to consider, is that like he's playing well. The more he continues to play well, entering week, was it 6 right now, and he's only at 2 interceptions with two more touchdowns against the New York Jets, which is 11-2 this year, which is still better numbers than Pat Mahomes on the year. Like it's just it is pretty crazy still, like, you know, to bring it back full circle, that Russell Wilson of all people and Sean Payton, in terms of the merging there, don't seem to necessarily be the biggest issue of this Denver Broncos team. It is the fact that this defense is the poorest it's ever been, and that's the team. That's the one
of the worst defenses in NFL history.
Yeah, so it's just to tie a bow on all of that.
But the offensive roster is not good enough too. Like, go ahead.
No, I get all that. Like, so it's just, there's just pieces they need to be building, you know, and it does start mostly on the defensive side of the ball, while building it. And I think what that is, you're going to have to probably build the offense through the draft, right? And the defense through the draft.
Oh, you have to. We're going to have to finally draft and invest some draft picks in the offensive line, and honestly in the defensive line. We've gone way too long without doing it, and it's cost us.
And I think the good news is, and I will say the good news on this, is that the Broncos, and in terms of the ownership finally in place, right? And we actually finally have ownership in place, and a head coach that is going to be with the rebuild and beyond, possibly. Like, that should give the Bronco fans a sign of optimism going forward, right? Is that there's actually going to be a direction, because the thing that Sean Payton wanted, right, Brandon? The thing that Sean Payton wanted was stability. He wanted stability with ownership. He wanted stability with general manager, which, George Payton, seat is simmering a little bit, maybe a little bit more than simmering, and so I just think it's going to be interesting to see, what transpires with that. But like, still, the buck stops with Sean. The buck stops with Sean, and that's exactly what Sean. And that's exactly what happened when Sean wanted to come here. He wanted to be like the head honcho.
Well, there was all those reports too about like how great the relationship is between him and Russ. But what do you make of that situation where Russ had that fumble against the Jets in the fourth quarter, and he's coming off the field, and Sean Payton is like visibly trying to tell him, like, I guess kind of asked him like what happened. I think the lip readers came out that he was like basically trying to tell him like your hot read was the back or something. Like, why didn't he go to that read? And Russ just walks straight past him, like doesn't even acknowledge him, doesn't talk to him, just keeps going.
I mean, it wasn't a good look.
No.
But I mean, like, what we see is the nonverbals. And when we see nonverbals, we tend to think, oh, that's not a good look at all. And I mean, we're not in the voices of the heads, right? I mean, like, we're not in the voices of the heads. And I mean, frankly, we were here's an example for you. I mean, we had John on, right? We had John on, who's really close friends with Mike Purcell. We asked him point blank what was going on between, the scuffle that we thought was a scuffle between Mike Purcell and Russ in the Carolina Panthers game, which speaking of Nathaniel Hackett, he was apparently oblivious to. But I just think that, like, in terms of like that spouting match, it was just more like, let's freaking go. Like, let's freaking go. It had nothing to do with like shouting directly like at Russ and like literally just ringing him a new one. Like, it's just about like, hey, let's actually go. Like, let's do this thing. Like, it wasn't. So I think that, like, I'm not trying to pour cold water on what you're talking about, Brandon, because on the surface it looks really bad.
I don't know what to think of it.
But I just think, like, from what you see on the visuals with the nonverbals, it didn't look good.
Yeah. I mean, it's just tough, man. It's rough. I mean, we'll talk about, do you want to just get into the Chiefs? We're going to be 1-5. Like, I've just accepted we're 1-5. I know I'm being a bit pessimistic, and we'll talk about the game. There's one thing I will say, like, you are correct. Like, in like your, not really your comparison with Russ and Mahomes, but Mahomes has been un-Mahomes-like so far. He's kind of been having a little bit of a down year. Travis Kelce, too, hasn't really been as fantastic, and he might not even be playing. Like, if he doesn't play, I would say that they're somewhat beatable, but this is going to be, I think there's a statistic is like, this is the worst defense that Pat has ever played against in his career. Like, I don't think he's ever played against the last ranked defense in the NFL. I think that was the statistic that I read, like, ever, and he's about to. So, they might put up 80 points on us. I don't know, but they've not been super great. Like, Travis Kelce has had 2 lower body injuries in the past 3 weeks. He's 34. He's had, I think, like, most of his advanced statistics, which, like, take that as you will, are career lows, like average depth of target. Like, everything has just been like pretty much not Kelce. Like, he's still been good. Like, he's still Travis Kelce. That offense still goes through him, but he's not been as otherworldly as he has been in other years. But my concern is, even if he doesn't play, I think the wide receivers, while they have been incredibly disappointing and dare I say abysmal for the Chiefs, like, Rashee Rice, the rookie, looks pretty good. He might go off against us. Isaiah Pacheco is probably going to have a career game. Like, I've just accepted that. And then, I mean, Kadarius Toney looks also horrible. Like, he looked like he was in midseason form in week 1, where he, like, dropped every single pass and caused an interception. So their offensive skill players at the wide receiver position aren't that good, but they still have the opportunity to go out and just completely dismantle us because our defense is
I mean, the thing
so
is,
bad.
you know, with the way that we give up the rushing yards, I don't want to say that the Jets basically gave a blueprint lately about how to beat the Denver Broncos, but like you don't have to pass all that much in order to beat this Denver Broncos team.
But you
Like,
can
but
if you want to.
my point
But
is,
you're right. You're right.
but my point is, like, you could run the ball, till the dogs come home, and we're never going to stop it. So Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde
Or like
Edwards-Helaire,
the Houston Texans now.
like Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Pacheco could end up with 200 yards each. Like that's how bad the rush defense is. And I'm joking that they're going to end up with 200 yards each, but like that's exactly what is the kind of game and the kind of like rush defense we have.
The issue is that can happen, and you still haven't even factored in the fact that Patrick Mahomes exists.
Right.
Like, this
and,
is going to be bad. This is going to be a beatdown.
And even if Travis Kelce doesn't play, you have Noah Gray. Like Noah Gray, who's probably going to end up going off. And the reason why he's going to end up going off is because Reed is so good about scheming people open, right? Oh, and so guys like Sky Moore, Rashee Rice. I mean, heck, I wouldn't even be surprised if Kadarius Toney actually has a really good game.
Every time I watch the Chiefs play, it doesn't even matter who it is. It's absolutely ridiculous to me how open they look on every single play. I don't know if it's scheme. I don't know if it's talent. It's probably a combination of the two of them and just like how good Andy Reid is at calling plays and recognizing situations and like doing what his players do best, which what a concept. But like it's just comical. Every single play, they just seem to be ridiculously open. Like I've seen the amount of Travis Kelce receptions I've seen where there is no one even remotely close to him, and everyone knows that entire offense goes through him, and he's going to get 14 targets a game. Like it's ridiculous to me. I don't get it. But against the Vance Joseph defense, we might get a passing touchdown to Travis Kelce or Rashee Rice or some wide receiver or receiving option on the Chiefs where there is not a single Bronco on the screen that you can see. Like that might happen.
The thing is, if you ain't beating them, you may as well join them. And I'm not saying players joining the Kansas City Chiefs because that's pouring bleach in my eye right now. But like I'm just saying that like what I'm trying to say about that is like as an offense, that's exactly the kind of offense that the Denver Broncos need to try and find themselves in. And the reason why I say that is because you talked about Andy Reid and the way that he schemes, whether it's, effort, or way that, he just schemes players open or, so on and so forth. I think also too, it's about the scramble drill too. Like, the thing with Pat Mahomes is, one of the biggest things about Travis Kelce is he finds the soft spot in the zone, like those slot receivers, like those wide receivers where he finds those easy areas where, Mahomes just easily finds him, so winning scramble drill, I think, is a big part of the Kansas City Chiefs offense. And so if you want to truly be a blueprint of how you want to become like that, finish your dang routes. I mean, like if you're Cortland, if you're Jerry, if you're Brandon, like that was one of the biggest things that Tim Patrick did so well was, he would always finish those scramble drills. And again, that's calling back stuff that we talked about earlier with effort, and being a liability. And, Cortland especially has been a liability lately in that. And I think that like, it's just, if they can be able to take a page out of the Chiefs playbook, do some of that to where you're actually showing more effort. And you hate to say it, do you guys want to be a laughing stock? I hate to, play the motivational card, but do you guys want to be another laughing stock on Thursday Night Football? The last Thursday Night Football game that we played last year was against the Indianapolis Colts at home. That you should never have lost that game. You should never have lost that game. And so like, I'm sure that the players know that in the back of their minds, but like, you want to make sure that you aren't going to end up being truly a laughing stock. But I just don't foresee this being close at all.
No. I will say, I think if Greg Dulcich is able to play and he comes back, which is questionable currently, I think that'll actually give us a pretty decent boost. Because like I'm just concerned about our wide receivers in this game against this Yeah, Javante's back against this Kansas City defense, which is very, very good. We might, unfortunately, we might have another situation where we just see the same thing play out again that we just saw against the Jets, where Russell Wilson, every single time he gets the ball, he just stands back there in the pocket, and he's going to have less time now with Chris Jones and that defensive line, but he just stands there, hold on the ball too long, no one gets open, and he can't throw a pass. And it was like infuriating and incredibly boring to watch. I feel like we're going to see it again.
Which would actually be sad because, the Jets defense, to their credit, and, we didn't get a chance to actually truly give full credit, but like the Jets defense is absolutely legit. The defensive line, as I said earlier, it gives you the heebie-jeebies, and they ate the Broncos offensive line, for lunch. But
their secondary was kind of outside of Sauce. Their secondary was kind of banged up, so that makes it even worse.
But I think that, like, if you to piggyback off what you're saying, though, if the Broncos can get something going where maybe they can look at what they certainly could have done against the Jets, which was, I don't know, challenge the DBs down the field, which was their third and fourth corner, or I should say their fourth and fifth corner, because that's what Scott said is that second. The QB2 and QB3 were all out in that game. So like why they didn't challenge the field more was so frustrating. And I'm hoping that, possibly in this game, the Broncos can possibly do that, which of course, you know what that means, Brandon, you know what that means? It's going to be setting up for the Broncos are going to have a phantom penalty called on them. That's not even a penalty. And it's going to result in us possibly taking points off the board. You know that's coming.
I mean, yeah, that's the other thing about the Chiefs is I don't know what it is, but I feel like there's a memo that gets sent out to every defensive player on the opposing team where if a play breaks down, you are not allowed to hit Patrick Mahomes, because every time I watch them play, the play breaks down and there's like 4 defenders in the vicinity of like, just get up and tackle him. Like they are right next to him and no one does it. No one hits him. It's ridiculous. I don't get it. I feel like they're told you are not allowed to even breathe on this player.
It feels almost like the Patriots, doesn't it, with Tom Brady?
Yeah, it does.
It's true. It really does. Did you get a chance to see the video that was done? Or I should say, did you get a chance to even see the game with the Chiefs and the Vikings, where in one full swoop, a Chiefs player looked like he roughed Kirk Cousins, and there was
no. The one that I saw was I think it was, I can't remember what Chiefs player did it, but he was like in the end zone and they threw a flag and he was like upset about it. And he pulls his helmet off, and they don't throw the flag for removing his helmet. They just literally talk to him like, put your helmet back on.
Same play. It was the same play.
Same play. Okay.
Yeah.
I must have seen the other end.
Yeah, but it was just like, again, not to circle back on the conversation we had with Scott, but fishy things are happening down there in Arrowhead. I'm just saying, and apparently the script is in, and the script is one more time again, we're going to slip a 20 to the Kansas City Chiefs. I'm kidding. Maybe not. All right, Brandon, you want to tie a bow on all of this, and we'll lead things off, obviously, with NFL picks. It seems appropriate that we get the Denver Broncos game out of the way first, right? Like, let's just get the Broncos game out of the way first. So, and actually, by the way, it's probably a good thing.
65-14.
It's probably a good thing that the Broncos are, our first pick 'em. For one, it's Thursday. It gets done, and two, it frees up my entire weekend. Like, of the other sports teams that I follow, they're on a bye week. Like, I have the entire weekend free. I'm going to go play golf on Saturday. Like, I'm going to enjoy my weekend. Like, it's truly just going to be such an enjoyable weekend where I don't even have to be tortured by the Denver Broncos on a Sunday. So it'll be nice.
But you have to be tortured tomorrow.
I'm not even watching the game. Like, I'm going to be at a church function, so I'm not even going to be watching the game. So maybe a wise decision on that one. So
we'll see.
But I think it's
65-13.
65-14.
14.
All right, so you're obviously going.
I wish I was kidding.
Yeah, no, I mean, we for the sake of actually not sounding stupid, we're not going to be stupid here. So, Yeah, so I'm going Chiefs too. And then go ahead with the next one.
I don't know what order you're going in.
It's the ESPN app, like always.
Okay, well, I'm looking at it on the ESPN desktop, so maybe it's different. But the next one I'm seeing is Baltimore at Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. This one's weird. I think I'm going to take Baltimore. The only reason I think it's weird is like Lamar Jackson had the best worst game of his career last week. And what I mean by that is like he looked absolutely phenomenal. But if you look at the stat sheet, he looked atrocious because none of his receivers could catch anything. Like you could put Stickum on their hands, they couldn't catch the damn ball. It was absolutely ridiculous. But the Tennessee's defense is a pass funnel, so I think they'll get back to being good.
It's interesting.
The thing's gonna be weird though, real quick, is Tennessee is the team that you cannot run on. So I don't know if we're gonna see as much running. I mean, obviously Lamar Jackson's Lamar Jackson. You can't catch him, but the Baltimore team, our offense kind of was like predicated more on the run. I think we're gonna have to see them do more passing.
Yeah, so I'm going Baltimore. You're going Baltimore.
Yeah.
The Commanders and the Falcons.
That one's gonna be kind of weird.
It's gonna be weird. Like
I honestly, I have no idea. I don't know who's gonna win this.
Like part of me wants to go Commanders based on how they played last week, but like also the Falcons are sneaky, but like they're also not like playing really well at quarterback either. And so
I will say last week was maybe the best Desmond Ridder game I've ever seen. Like he actually looked like a somewhat competent quarterback. And Bijan continues to do Bijan things. Like, did you see that slow-mo
they
behind
did
it? It's ridiculous. I think I'm gonna take.
I may go Falcons here.
Oh my god, this is hard. I think I'm gonna take the Falcons.
Next one is tough one, Brandon. It's a tough one.
Minnesota with no Justin Jefferson at Chicago. This is gonna actually be fun. I think the Justin Fields show continues.
Minnesota's so bad now. Like
it's Chicago. Losing Justin Jefferson is so huge for Minnesota. Like KJ Osborne. Okay. Jordan Addison is a really good player. We'll see if he steps up. He's still a rookie though.
I may actually go something surprise, and I may actually go the Vikings on this one.
That's not a huge surprise. I mean, they are still a pretty good team, but just that loss sucks.
It's a really
Chicago
bad.
is rolling.
But you went with who'd you go with? Chicago.
I hope Chicago wins. I do. I hope they win out the rest of the year.
Yeah, because the more they win out, the higher the.
I hope Carolina wins out too, but that's not going to happen. So
I was going to go with the Seahawks and the Bengals. This one had
Joe Burrow looked back.
Well, but it just depends on how healthy he is, and
he looked pretty good. He was moving more.
So if he is back and he's healthy, then you're going to go with the Bengals. I just think that it's hard, and especially
Seahawks defense is also not good.
Unless you're Devon Witherspoon.
He is good, but that's the defense as a whole has been
I said last night that I'm going to go take the Seahawks, so I'll stick to my word on that one. I'll say Seahawks.
Okay.
You're going Bengals?
49ers at Cleveland. I mean, 49ers. No one can stop them. The Cleveland defense has been good, so that might be actually interesting to see. But the Cleveland offense is going to be very bad. Speaking of, the still cleared medically to play Deshaun Watson will not be playing. And
PJ Walker
are going to start. PJ Walker, not even going to start DTR Dorian Thompson Robinson. I can never remember his full name.
By the way,
he actually looked decent in the preseason.
There's some options. I'm just saying, like, there's some options over there. So if the Broncos didn't want to dabble in the draft, maybe you go trade, for like a DTR or something. Who was a quarterback I wanted them to take a flyer on in the draft and, have him learn under us. So maybe they kind of surprise us a little bit and make a surprise trade like that. And by the way, the 49ers are the best team in like the country right now. Like they're insane. Like,
oh yeah, it's
like
not surprising.
you obviously get Randy Gregory. The Broncos did right
Randy
by
Gregory's gonna be so good in the 49ers defense, honestly.
So they did right by him.
Which is gonna make us look worse.
And the Broncos obviously were able. I don't know how they did it, but they got a pick for this upcoming year in 2024, which was kudos to them. And Christian McCaffrey, is he the MVP this year?
He should be. I don't know if a running back has a running back ever won MVP. I think we had this discussion. I can't remember what we found out. Maybe offensive player of the year, which was my prediction, by the way.
Okay. The not Anthony Richardson led Indianapolis Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars.
You skipped Miami and Carolina.
That's okay. But the Indianapolis
Miami.
Colts and the Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean,
Anthony Richardson is on IR.
He's on IR. That's the thing that we're
maybe 8 weeks. Like a grade 3 AC joint sprain on his throwing shoulder. That's bad.
Yeah, that's the thing that worries me about him right now. And that's the thing you worry about anything with a running quarterback is like when he's taking hits like that on a consistent basis and he's not finishing games this early in his career.
He's had 3 injuries so far, I think, this season. Like his injury history going back into college is concerning.
Jaguars. I'm going Jaguars though on this one.
Yeah, I think I'd take the Jags. Although I do think Gardner Minshew is capable. Like I think they'll actually have a decent showing.
And I'm going Miami as well.
New Orleans at Houston. This was kind of weird because, like, I know last week I said that the New Orleans Patriots game was going to be a snooze fest, and New Orleans just like steamrolled them and actually looked really good, and the Patriots look atrocious. Who we play this season, which is great.
Good day.
This is weird because like CJ Stroud is still kind of on a roll, but the New Orleans defense is really good. Like, they're probably going to shut down. I don't know. I feel like this might be a pretty decent Tank Dell game because Nico Collins might kind of get shadowed by
the Texans actually pull it out against the Saints?
By Marshawn Lattimore. I don't know. The Texans offense has looked pretty decent. I think I'm probably still going to go New Orleans, but this one is a sneaky upset watch. Like Houston could win this. Even if they don't win it, I still think Tank Dell is going to have a pretty good game because I think Marshawn Lattimore is going to shadow Nico Collins.
I think this is going to be my game that I kind of dabbled that in there, and I'm going to go Houston on this.
I wouldn't be surprised by any means. The only reason I think that New Orleans can win is Alvin Kamara is back, and Houston's run defense is almost as bad as ours. So
Saints, you're going Saints?
Yeah.
No, it definitely was a really bad Aussie accent. I was hoping to, if it wasn't to say, good day, I was gonna, go the full Dumb and Dumber route, which was, let's put another shrimp on the bobby.
Oh my god! Hold on. Speaking of rugby, have you seen Jordan Mailata's rugby highlights? The Eagles tackle when he was a rugby player.
Yeah, it's
one of the craziest things I've ever seen. If anyone in the chat has not seen this, you have to go to YouTube and search for Jordan Mailata rugby highlights because it is ridiculous. He's just like a massive human being running at speeds that he should not be running at and just like pancaking people. It's insane.
You know what was funny is I don't know why that reminded me of this, but like someone also posted Vita Vea in a high school, and he was a running back in high school.
What?
They posted highlights of him like in high school or something. Like it was crazy. Like and it was almost like that exact same like basically like that exact same thing. Like he was like it was brutal. Like for like the opposing team trying to tackle him, like it was crazy.
6'4", 347-pound Vita Vea was a running back. how big was he? That's wild. I didn't know that.
I'll have to find a clip and try and send it to you.
Oh, I think I found it. Anyway, that'll be fun to watch.
So
what
Norman,
game were we on? I don't know.
I was gonna say, Norman, let me know how you became a rugby fan, or why you like rugby. And actually, if you're a Bronco fan, how'd you become a Bronco fan? Let us know in the chat. All right. The Patriots. That's the Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick Bowl.
Oh my God, Vita Vea is massive as a running back.
You're finally seeing it.
Insane.
It's crazy, man. Like, reminded me of like seeing some of those clips of like, it might have been rugby, but like seeing the clips of like just the guy continuing to stiff arm players and just like with brute physicality.
It looks like a high school player playing in a Pee-wee game.
Yeah, it's crazy. Oh my God. The Bill Belichick and Josh McDaniels Bowl.
Okay. This will be interesting.
Get your popcorn
Las
ready?
Vegas looked pretty bad. And New England looked worse. So I don't know.
I think I'm gonna go with the Patriots on this one.
I think this could be a Ramondre Stevenson game. Finally. I can't in good conscience pick the Patriots. Their offense just looks so bad. Mac Jones, who they had to come out and clarify is still the starter. Like didn't he get benched 2 weeks in a row? Like he looked horrible.
Not benched, but I should say benched during the game. Like
he was benched during the game 2 weeks ago. Was he benched again last week?
Yeah,
he should have been.
2 straight weeks where Bailey Zappi came into the game.
In
fact, I think that Glenn, who lives on the East Coast, said that there's actually some rumblings of Malik Cunningham getting some work.
That'd be wild. And then Las Vegas also doesn't really look that good. Like Decoy Adams against Green Bay, like they literally just refuse to throw the ball to Devontae Adams, which is hilarious to me. I think I'm going to take New England, mostly because I think that Bill Belichick knows how to stop Josh McDaniels, and he knows how to stop Garoppolo.
All right. Next on the docket, we going to Motown?
Arizona, Los Angeles.
I was going to go with Detroit and Tampa, but no, yeah, Arizona and the Rams. Maybe if it isn't for CJ Stroud, maybe the leader in the offensive rookie of the year category, Puka Nacua Matata.
Hook Nukem.
Yeah. Nacua Matata.
Insane. Yeah. He probably is going to win. Yeah, it's the Rams. I mean, Arizona might make it look interesting because they're a pretty good coach team. But it's like they lost James Conner, who was kind of the focal point of that offense through the first 5 weeks. And then DeMarcado, their rookie undrafted running back, actually looked kind of decent. Amari DeMarcado, although like Keontae Ingram is like officially ahead of him on the depth chart, which is interesting. And like Keontae Ingram is, I don't even know who that is. I think it's obviously the Rams.
That's really cool. Oh, nice. Yeah, see that helps. Being a
Broncos. Oh, the rugby team is called Broncos? The Broncos?
That's cool.
That's actually sweet.
That's really cool.
I'd rather be a fan of them this year.
All right.
Philadelphia and Jets. Okay. Eagles. Just Eagles. That's all I got to say there.
That's going to be the Eagles. And it actually looked like in the last game that they had Hurts actually became the Jalen Hurts we're rather accustomed to seeing.
Yeah, he looked better.
But yeah, so we're going.
AJ Brown looks like an animal.
Which, by the way, I heard rumblings that he's going to send a thank you card to the Tennessee Titans.
Oh, that'd be interesting.
I'm joking. Like that.
He should for trading him.
Like seriously, like
resurrected his career basically, because Tennessee is where wide receivers go to die,
and then
unless you're Unless you're like this last week,
DeAndre
Hopkins, who had like a game. But.
All right. Lions and Buccaneers. So you have.
I think this will actually be fun. This will be a fun game.
Baker Mayfield's cooking right now.
Baker Mayfield's cooking. Mike Evans is on a tear. The Detroit pass rush, though, Aiden Hutchinson is a freak.
I know he wears 97, but Aiden Hutchinson. Did you see his interception last week?
No.
He won. It was basically like the play that Bijan made.
That's insane. Like the play that Jaleel McLaughlin made?
Like they just like grabbed it like almost like behind his back, if you will. Yeah. And what's crazy is I know he wears 97, but almost feels like he's the third Bosa brother, like in how he plays. And he actually plays a little bit like a Nick Bosa to that. Like he's a freak defensive player. And if you're also kind of speculating, teams possibly being interested in Justin Simmons, maybe the Detroit Lions are a team that could float around with the loss of Brian Branch. I'm gonna go with I'm actually gonna go with the Detroit Lions on this one. I thought about going the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I think I'm just gonna stick with it and go with the Detroit Lions.
I gotta follow the Dan Campbell Coach of the Year train until the wheels fall off. Detroit.
If you're not careful, it'll bite your kneecap too.
I'm on his team. I'm pulling for him.
Yeah.
New York at Buffalo.
We'll finish this off. Cowboys, Chargers. It is the Kellen Moore Bowl.
Yeah, this will actually be kind of interesting. Dallas has looked weird. And Austin Eckler comes back, although they lost Mike Evans. I think it's the Chargers. Although Justin Herbert.
Mike Williams, by the way.
What did I say?
Mike Evans.
Oh, Mike Williams. Tampa Bay. Mike Williams. They lost Mike Williams, but Austin Eckler comes back. I'm curious to see what happens to Justin Herbert and like his hand and his fingers. Hopefully that's.
They didn't say it's a throwing hand, did they? But they did.
No, it's his other hand. But like he can't grip the ball. Like he came back into the last game and think they had the bye week, so like maybe it's been better. But he comes back into the last game. He has like a freaking stent and like a gigantic wrap on his two of his fingers on his left hand, and it's like he can't catch the ball correctly from the snap. I mean, he still played pretty decent afterwards. I do think the Chargers are going to win.
See the Chargers. I may actually go with the Cowboys on this. I think that the Cowboys' defense is actually legit. I think it's maybe top 5, top 3 as far as one of the better defensive units that's out there. It's what you would come to expect with a Dan Quinn coached defense, is that they would actually be really good on the defensive side of the ball. So I'm going to go with Cowboys. I think the Cowboys have the upper hand on it. But it's going to be interesting to see if Kellen Moore has anything up his sleeve against his former team. I'm kind of curious about that. So that'll do it for NFL picks. Any final thoughts for you, Brandon?
I'd say welcome to the pit of misery, but we're too high up to call it a pit. So welcome to the mountaintop of misery.
Yeah. It's going to be really interesting to see what the Broncos do.
High misery.
I do think that we are going to see at least our first move happen, maybe even after the Chiefs game. And I even actually said that the way that Frank Clark has even been this particular year with the Denver Broncos, the Broncos may not actually get anything for him.
No.
And they actually could just
swap.
No, and they just flat out just cut him.
They could do that too.
And don't be surprised. I say this, don't be surprised if he re-signs with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah. So, but like, imagine I would imagine him to be the first the first player that's going to end up being dealt, because he's not going to play in the game against the Chiefs because he has an illness. And so I think that so it'll be interesting tomorrow. I would imagine Clark's going to be the first one. And then who knows? That'll be probably the first domino to fall after that. So I think on the season, I think you're probably going to maybe expect at the very least 3 moves to be made during the season. And then after the season, is anyone's fair game, because obviously, that's when everybody is, piquing interest and, and players, and, you get a full off season with it. So, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. But one thing's for sure is that we will be sticking with you guys, of course, during the season, and of course, during this rebuild and during the post rebuild, of course, over here on the MHRT network. So thank you guys so much for sticking with us. Of course, it's been a pit of misery. And I'll tell you what,
it's the mountaintop of misery now.
And again, like, to circle back, Broncos country, let's lift. So, I mean, for Brandon, myself, for anybody that is contributing into the chat, Graham, Big Mike, we didn't even get a chance to talk about possibly Greg Dulcich, the Croatian sensation that is possibly returning tomorrow, about the impact that he could possibly have, in this game. So I'm sure we might get a DM from Big Mike saying, "Why didn't you guys talk about Greg Dulcich?"
Hey, I did. I said he might come back and we would need him and he'd make an impact.
But I meant like an in-depth, basically.
I don't know. Well, because we don't know if we're going to play. Anyway, we'll see.
But yeah, so I think it'll be a lot of fun, though. I'm curious to see what he could be able to do. But anyway, for Brandon, myself, make sure you follow the Manely Broncos Twitter handle. We both monitor that, even though Brandon actually tweeted that out today.
I think I made one tweet on that account because I keep forgetting that.
Yeah. But anyway, follow us over on that Twitter account at Manly Broncos. And myself at Cameron Parker PO, Brandon over there at Brandon Miller PO. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another episode of the show, and we will see you guys next Wednesday at 7:30.
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go.